Meeting to order. We have a quorum. Can we get an approval of the agenda?
Madam President, I move that we adopt the agenda for today as printed.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, or show of hands? Opposed? Jana?
No, you don't oppose.
No, I don't oppose, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, let's try
Thank
it
you.
again.
Okay, Dr. Harrison, we are waiting to hear what you have to say, please.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent Dr. Moore, board members, thank you all again for having me this afternoon and working with me on the time frame because after I leave you all, I've got to travel out to Phoenix, Arizona for the rest of the week. So I'm glad to be here with you all. And one thing as you all know, I always give a joke or two. I got meetings set up out there, and we spring forward, but they don't move. So I got to readjust all of my schedules, okay? But anyway, you all not here to hear that. I'm here this afternoon to share with you all the findings from the engagement review that was conducted back in early February. So I have the presentation, I'll go through the presentation, same protocol, out of respect for the board. I will take questions once the meeting is officially over from our media friends and what have you, and interview, but during the board meeting, we will not take any questions, okay? So, we're gonna get into this because the last time I was here, we were at Van Zandt. We've changed to Columbia now. And why Columbia? Because we have expanded our work beyond just accreditation, which a lot of folks have known us for over 125 years as the largest agency that deals with accreditation in over 85 countries across the world. And a lot of y'all know us as SACS, but again, we work with accreditation, certification, as you know that one of your schools has become STEM certified through Tech. I see my friend back in the back there. So I just wanted to make sure we point out that we deal with assessment and also professional learning with students. So again, we've expanded our services beyond just accreditation. But we're here this afternoon to talk about accreditation. Most of you all know what accreditation is, but I wanted to bring it back because that was the purpose of the engagement review, to look at the 31 standards for school systems tied to your accreditation. So, again, accreditation, we have an international protocol that we use around the world, like I said, in about 85 countries. The key thing that we want you to know, what we try and do with accreditation, we tie it back to systematic and sustainable improvement. We're looking to see that you're working as a unit, and number one, also when you have success, how did you sustain it and continue to improve? As you can see, we're focusing on the institution and the institutions inside of the system, which would be Montgomery County here and the schools within Montgomery County, looking at student learning. And you'll hear me talk about later on when I get into the standards, we'll be talking about the importance of student learning and sustaining your work towards student learning even when you have success dealing with students. And looking at institutional effectiveness and efficiency as we're working as a school system. So that's accreditation. Again, ties back to continuous improvement and helping school systems move forward and supporting school systems. So just a little bit about when did we do this? We were in Montgomery as a team back early February, as I said, February 2nd through the 5th. With a team of 10 people. And again, for an engagement review, the lead evaluator is always from out of state. The lead evaluator was from Florida. And we had other members that were out of state that were here. Before I talk about what we did, I want to go back and just recap some history. Because these questions continue to come up about Montgomery County. Montgomery County back in May of 2013 earned systems accreditation, or some folks call it district accreditation. From there, in February 2017, went under state intervention, Almost a year later, our president and CEO, Dr. Elgar, came here and decided that at VanSayre at the time, we were going to do a special review because of the change that had happened with state intervention. And the change consists of looking at leadership, student achievement, and fiscal matters. And when we do a special review for VanSayre, we look at similar things in our cognitive. Of course, we look at leadership, student learning, and how resources are being used. So therefore, the recommendation was for Montgomery County to host a special review. And that's what we did in March of 2018. From that, we shared some findings with the board. And at the time, make sure I get this right, board members. Ms. Smith, you were on the board, right? Ms. Bryant were on the board, and Dr. Keith were on the board. We had 3 board members. 4 new board members now. But at the time, when we did the first report, there were 3 board members here. From there, because with the special review, we left findings for the school system to address. And then we came back and did 2 monitoring reviews to see how the school system was progressing. The last monitoring review, we saw enough progression where the team recommended that the system host its traditional engagement review. Because the engagement review is the traditional 5-year review. That's our cycle, that's our protocol. So after this review, it was decided, and our commission approved the team's request. So then we were there to host the engagement review. What happens on the engagement review? I want to make sure that you know, from a cognitive standpoint, for a systems review, we have 31 performance standards that we examine the school system effectiveness against. Those are our standards that we use for our protocol. So I want to make sure that you understand that's what we look at as far as system effectiveness and efficiency types of continuous improvement. That's what I'll be talking about today. So, the 31 standards. What helps us derive at a recommended rating for our commission? Number 1, stakeholder interviews. And you'll see later on, I'm going to share numbers with you all. We talked to a lot of people here. The evidence that you have, documented evidence that you prepared before the team arrived. We observed classes throughout the district, which I'll show you numbers after in a few. And from that, we provide feedback to the system as far as its continuous improvement journey. Because we want the system to always know that it's all about continuous improvement. You're always trying to improve. So let's look at the interviews. All 7 school board members were interviewed. School leaders, that's assistant principals, central office people, everybody there. Instructional people, that's your teachers, librarian, counselors, all those folks. Students, excuse me, you all. Support staff, parent, and community. That gave us a total of about 546 people that we talked to over that time period. Ms. Bryant, that's a lot of folks. Would you agree?
I would.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of people. And the system is so large, that's why we have a large team, because again, we really wanted to make sure we talk to stakeholders and get feedback from stakeholders as far as their thoughts, as well as, again, bringing all those documentation and everything together, or documents. So now let's talk about the findings. And again, I'll focus on these standards. But before I do that, I got to slide on the observations. We visited schools on that Tuesday when we were here. And during our visit, we observed 90 classrooms. And I want to tell you with the 90 classroom, we have a protocol, we call it ELLIOT, but that acronym stands for Effective Learning Environments Observation Tool. Effective Learning Environments Observation Tool. And I stress the S on environments because these are the 7 learning environments that we look at. And we must stay in the classrooms at least 20 minutes minimum. So, a lot of classrooms that we cover. And if you want to know the schools that we visited, Dr. Moore has that information. She can share that information with you all. But we visited elementary, middle, and high schools throughout the district. So, talking about ELLIOT, these are the 7 learning environments that we look at. These are the ratings that we have on a 4-point rating scale. And so if you take a moment and look at that, as far as your findings, throughout our network, I can always tell you, based on the data that we have, supportive learning environment and well-managed classroom are often the highest. So take a moment and look at that. Is that correct? Always, and, you know, I just scanned it. Here's the thing I want to let you know. Most often, kids are pretty much well behaved when we're visiting the classroom. And then now when we're in the classroom, we also find time to talk to the students and ask them questions about their learning. But what I want you to make sure you continue to look at equitable learning environment. That's an environment where when we're visiting the classroom, we're looking at every student. We're looking at how often the student participates, raises his or her hand, involved in discussions and what have you. Because again, we want to make sure that everyone is afforded an opportunity to learn. High expectations, and you can see the rest there. This is your learning.
No money. Money.
I can say this to you also, that's your lowest, but
Yes.
from a universal standpoint, and what I want board members to do, in your report, you're going to see, board members, your average versus our network average. That's something that I really want you to look at and see, basically. And Jana, what page is that?
Page 9.
Page 9. Look at to see where you are versus our schools across our network. Because that will also tell you and let you see basically where you are with these learning environments. So get your learning. Let me tell you why that learning environment is so important. Again, we're looking at what students are doing. This observation tool is solely looking at students. So this is a student-centered observation tool. So we are watching what students are doing for 20 minutes. So if I am a teacher and I'm using technology or a presentation like right now, I mean, it would be a low rating for me because I'm the only one really technically using technology to some level or what have you. So we're looking at what students are doing. So it's very important here to make sure that you have the resources and what have you for the students. Okay, so I want to point that out. That's not a teacher observation tool, that's a student observation tool. And we find this to be the lowest across our network. But again, we're looking at what students are doing. What type of technology they're using, what level or what level of depth of knowledge are they using it, and how they're even using it to communicate. So, that's your scores. You got more detail in your report, okay? All right. So now let's talk about the performance standards. When we were here back in March of 2018, we had 31 performance standards, and that's what the team used to look at the effectiveness of the school system. We still have the same colors, President, well, but we changed our wording a little bit, okay? All right? So instead of needs improvement, we said insufficient. And you can see the definition there. Nothing leaning towards continuous improvement. Initiating means that basically you guys started, but you still need to extend your efforts. Right here, improving. That means that we see some improvement in quality practices and you're meeting the standard. Impacting means noteworthy practices are happening, going above and beyond, basically. But those are your definitions, so you can read them for yourself. Now, we're going to look at the first domain, the leadership domain. Here we are. What I've done for you all, I put up March 2018, and then the ratings for February 2020. We see improvement, but there are still two standards in leadership that have not been met yet by the system. There's work there that you're working towards it. But you're still in the initiating phase. I forgot I don't touch this wall because I forgot things moving like that. But look at all of the improvement. And I won't go through all the standards with you, but all of these standards mainly focus on leadership. And what you're doing as far as operational practices, what you're doing for organization effectiveness, but most importantly, what you're doing for student learning. The learning domain. You have 12 standards here. So you see where you were March 2018 and where you are now today. Lots of improvement in the learning domain. Lots of work here in this area. And again, I would encourage you to look at the standards. I promised the board that I wouldn't be long, so I'm not going to read every standard for you. Resource domain. I think my friend Ms. Bryers probably pointed that out earlier when I was talking about him. Get your resources and tools. So those are the 31 standards. So we've seen improvement throughout the district. Let's look at the standards that were in violation. Let's see where we are. 2018 into where we are now. Remember, I'm focusing on our protocol and our standards. So once we look at all the standards, the committee or the team then makes a recommendation to our commission about the accreditation status. And the last accreditation status, you were under review. And that's the status that we left you with, maybe 3 reports, like a special review and 2 monitoring review. Before we get to that status, because I know y'all wouldn't see that, I just want to get a little bit, okay? I got some key themes that we saw. And I want to tell you, we don't do like we used to do, required action, powerful practice and all those things. We embed that work inside of key themes. So for the Montgomery County Board of Education, this came from the interviews, review documentation, and what have you. The team found these things, that several stakeholders are being involved in your strategic planning process. We also found that you're using the effective learning environment observation tool, Elliott, throughout your schools to increase student-centered learning. But most important, what we also saw under Dr. Cook's leadership, focusing on the teacher as well. We also found, based on our standards, I want to clarify, based on our standards, where you were in 2018 and where you are now, we found that you've developed some policies and what have you, and you got some things in place for fiscal accountability. Okay? All right. Where's Mr. Watts?
Right over there.
Oh, yeah.
The hero.
Yeah. He knows how to, yeah, he's very good with that. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? I got a chance to talk to him a couple of times. Some additional things we found, and this is what I want to talk to the board about, and superintendent. That first bullet. Now that you've done this work, it's now time to look at your strategic plan, take it to a new level. You've got to think about looking at down the road, where you want to be in 5 years. How we're going to make sure that we got the right measurements in place to measure our effectiveness. Who's going to be responsible? When we looked at your strategic plan, we saw that you had some goals and a few strategies, but outcomes are going to be very important now. So taking a more in-depth look, and your report will explain that. And I know that some of your board trainees, you've talked about that, but now it's time to bring the plan to life, okay? And you're at a point now where you've got some evidence and different types of reports to help you move forward, okay? And the last one we saw, Dr. Moore, throughout the interviews, and this will be explained in the report. And now that Dr. Moore has the report, it's in her hands, she can decide how she wants to disseminate that or what have you. But we found that there's confidence and support for Dr. Moore and her leadership. We heard that through the community, parents, board members, what have you, teachers, principals. So that was a theme that emerged. And again, we had to look at key things to try to make sure that we showcase what was happening for a while. We raised the standards as far as improving, but also areas that we think, hey, you've had success, but now how can you expand that success as a school system and moving forward? So those are the key things, and again, in the report, it goes a little deeper, okay? All right, so now, y'all saw that slide. All right, so we're getting to the last slide. Next time I'm gonna count the slides. So after all of this work, I am proud to represent our CEO and President, Dr. Mark Elgart, to say to you that our commission has voted based on our 31 standards. You're gonna hear me keep saying our standards, hardly your standards, okay? That Montgomery County accreditation status changes from under review to accreditation. Board member Mitchell, Keith, Coleman, Briers, Bailey, Smith, Mr. Roller. I want to make sure I say everybody. I have a certificate. And when I'm in Phoenix, I'm going to get your nice certificate, okay? But right now, I have a certificate on behalf of our CEO and President, Dr. Mark Elgart, to let you know that the accreditation status, and you can read the definition, what it means that there's been changed, you're in good standing, and you meet most of your standards basically, and pretty much you're gonna get a certificate, but also, you're quite welcome. Also, every school will also get a certificate, so give yourself a hand. I want to tell you this though, I had to put this bullet in here because we are about continuous improvement. Since you are a member of the Cognitive Network, we're going to continue to support you, but we also are going to continue to monitor your progress and what
That's a
happens.
good thing.
Okay? So we'll support you.
That's a good thing.
All right, but again, we're gonna continue, as we do with everybody, we will continue to monitor Montgomery County and what have you, okay? So I want you to know that as we talk about sustainability, it does not stop today, okay? The work has just begun, okay? So again, thank you all so very much. Board members, most of the principals in the room, I want to tell you something about most of your principals and what have you. We've done a lot of work with them, and I'm so thankful, principals, that I feel like I know you by first name and what have you. And so I thank you all for your leadership as well as the district office. Dr. Moore, at this time, I think I am done. I appreciate it. So I don't know, you probably got a little time left, but again, thank you all so much.
Well, in what little time I have, it's to say thank you.
Okay?
Thank you for the work and for the advice, and we're moving forward, but we're going to keep moving it
Yes,
to the next level.
correct.
Thank you.
And I want to just say to the people here in the audience, that you all worked really hard with all of the things that we threw at you and asked you to do. And I know sometimes it was probably pretty stressful, because it was stressful for us, because we had to take all of your information and at night and on the weekend, on Sundays, put it together into the report in the format that Cognia wanted. So we took all of your information and pulled it into a document. But you all gave us the information that we needed, all of the recommendations that we made to you, sometimes the requirements that we gave to you, that you all stepped up to the plate and you did all of those things. And so this status now belongs to you, because you are MPS along with our students, and to the board for all of the things you've done and the support you've given us. We just really, really appreciate it. I knew we could do it. I knew we could from the beginning. But I knew we had to get on that path of taking those 31 items and addressing all of those items. And that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. But we were able to address all of those, and you all had to do a lot of work out in the schools. And so we have some parents here, we have support people here, we have local community people here, and the school board, everybody. We just thank you so much for the work that you've done. And we're going to go to the path of, because a lot of people recognize colors, we want some blues. We got to get some blues. And so, of course, to go from so many reds to so many greens in that amount of time is just a wonderful thing. It just shows that you can do it, and we can do it, and we're going to keep working on it. So thank you so much.
Dr. Moore, I would just like to say, I've been on the board a long time, and I have always said the teachers, the principals, and the staff, they are the foot soldiers of this. Even if we set policy, change policy, and do all of the above, unless they are willing to work. And we got to stop criticizing them and compliment them for what they're doing. Sure, in everything, you're going to have some people that are not stepping up to the plate. But when the majority of the people are, I think they need to be commended.
Dr. Moore, if I may, just for 1 second, I've learned to be real quiet as we work together, because you've done an outstanding job. This is an international protocol. It's put in place in 85 different countries. You had 10 professional educational experts from around the country. A lot of places that rank on the NAEP and other things better than Alabama does. You had all of these directives and findings and priorities and all of these things that we were supposed to work on. You had over 500 interviews that they did with people. You have people now showing confidence, whether it's support staff or administrative staff, in the superintendent. I'm telling you right now, you have board governance improving and getting better. The work that has been done rests on the shoulders of the people in the audience. I want all the principal family to stand up. Stand up, family. Job well done. Job well done. Thank you very much. This was the protocol by which that we came in a state of crisis. It was rated the worst advanced ed review in the history of advanced ed. That's outstanding. That needs to be celebrated. You need to talk about that. You need to share that with people because it was good enough for us to come in and drop the hammer. It's good enough for us to say back off and let us do our work. You guys are doing an outstanding job. I commend you of the work that you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Dr. Moore.
If there's no other comments or no other business here, we will be adjourned. Our next meeting is tomorrow, 5 o'clock, right here. Thank you.